Namaste students. As we have completed our third chapter, today in this video we'll start our new chapter, that is the chemical bonding. In this video we'll study the definition of the chemical bonding and we'll study that why atom combines and how atom combines, and along with this we'll study the ionic bond in detail. So without any delay, let's get started. So before the starting of the topic, the starting of the chapter, that is the chemical bonding, first of all, we have to know the meaning of the chemical bond. That what is the chemical bond? Now in our junior classes, we have studied about the atoms, molecules, compounds, and we studied that molecules and compounds are made up of atoms. So the force which binds the atom together in a molecule or a compound, that force is known as chemical bond. Clear? So what is the definition of the chemical bond? Definition of chemical bond is the force. It is a force which binds the atom together. Which binds the atom together. So chemical bond is nothing but a force which binds the atom together in a molecule or a compound. That force is known as chemical bond. Now there is a question that what is the need of this chemical bond? Means what is the need? What atoms want? They combine with each other. Why atom combine with each other? So this explanation means the explanation of this question was given by two scientists, Kozel and Lewis. Kozel and Lewis in 1916 was successful in explaining the satisfactory explanation of this question, that why atom combines with each other. So there was a question that why atom combine with each other. So there was two scientists, Kozel and Lewis. Kozel and Lewis in 1916 independently give the satisfactory explanation of this question, that why atom combines with each other. Now, because their theory, means the Kozel and Lewis, their theory was based on the electronic concept of atom. Their theory was based on the electronic concept of atom. Therefore, their theory was referred as electronic theory of valency. Their theory was referred as electronic theory of valency. Why their theory was referred as electronic theory of valency? Because their theory was based on the electronic concept of atom. Now, Kozel and Lewis separately, means independently, they performed experiment. The Kozel study was focused mainly on the inorganic substances, whereas Lewis focused his study in the organic substances. So what is chemical bond? Chemical bond is a force which binds the atom together in a molecule or a compound. Now, why atom combines with each other? What is the need? This question was satisfactorily explained by first time by the Kozel and Lewis in 1916. They independently studied. Kozel studied inorganic substances, mainly inorganic substances, and Lewis' study was focused mainly on the organic substances. When they studied these substances, they put a conclusion. Now, this conclusion is based on the electronic configuration of the noble gases. This conclusion was based on the electronic configuration of noble gases. Now, if I take the example of, suppose, helium. Helium is a noble gas. Its configuration is 1s2. Neon is another noble gas. Its configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6. These two are noble gases. their study was based on the electronic concept. Now they observed that noble gases are non-reactive. Why they are non-reactive? Because they have fully filled outermost orbital. Means their outermost orbital is fully filled. But the other atoms which are reactive, they don't have fully filled outermost configuration. So they put a conclusion that noble gases are unreactive because their outermost orbital is fully filled. But the other atoms are reactive, means other atoms combines with each other because they want to complete their outermost electronic configuration. They want to complete their octet configuration. They want to acquire the noble gas configuration, and because of this, atoms combine with each other. Clear? Kozel and Lewis independently did the experiment. Kozel experiment was based on the inorganic substances, but Lewis experiment has a main focus on the organic substances. But their conclusion was same. They concluded that noble gases are non-reactive because they have fully filled electronic configuration, whereas the other atoms do not have fully filled configuration, therefore they are reactive. So they put a conclusion that atoms combine with each other. Atom combine with each other to complete their octet configuration or duplet configuration and acquire the nearest noble gas configuration. And this conclusion was termed as octet rule. The statement of their conclusion was termed as octet rule, according to which atom combines with each other to complete their outermost octet configuration or duplet configuration. Duplet configuration means if we talk about hydrogen, if we talk about lithium, if we talk about beryllium. So in hydrogen, lithium and beryllium, they don't want to gain 8 electrons. They want to complete their s orbital fully filled, and s orbital contain only 2 electrons. So according to octet rule, what happened? Atom combine with each other to complete their outermost electronic configuration or to complete their octet or duplet and to acquire the nearest noble gas configuration. Now why nearest noble gas configuration? Because if I talk about sodium, the sodium electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. So this sodium try to remove the electron from the 3s. Try to remove the electron from the 3s so that its configuration becomes 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, and that is equal to the configuration of the neon, which is the nearest noble gas to the sodium. So according to octet rule, what is octet rule? That the atoms combines with each other to complete their octet or duplet and to acquire nearest noble gas configuration. So this is the answer of the previous question, that why atom combine with each other, because they want to convert their less stable electronic configuration to more stable configuration to acquire the nearest noble gas configuration. Atom combine with each other. Now another question arises, that how atom combines. There was the first question, that why atom combines. Why atom combines? Answer is because they want to complete their outermost configuration. They want to acquire the noble gas configuration. That's why they react with each other. Now the question, how atom reacts with each other. Now the question is, how atom reacts with each other. Now atom reacts with each other first of all with the help of the electrons. Atom reacts with each other with the help of the electrons. There is no role of proton and neutron in that particular bonding. So atom reacts with each other with the help of the protons. Atom reacts with each other either by the complete transfer of one or more electron or by the sharing of one or more electron. So atom can combine by two ways. Atom combine by two ways. Either by transfer of electron, transfer of one or more electron, or by the sharing of one or more electron. Sharing of one or more electron. So by these two methods, atom combine with each other. Now when atom combines by the transfer of the electron, then they form an ionic bond. Then they form an ionic bond. But when atom combine with the sharing of the electron, they can do the sharing of the electron by two methods. One is the mutual sharing of the electron, another is not mutual sharing of electron. Now what is mutual sharing of electron? Mutual sharing of electron means, suppose these are two atoms and they want to combine with each other. So if they do mutual sharing, then what happens? One electron is shared by this atom and one electron is shared by this atom. Then the sharing is known as mutual sharing. Then the sharing is known as mutual sharing. But suppose if two electrons are shared by this atom, but none of the electron was shared by this atom, but there is a bond between these two, and this bond is due to the sharing of two electron by this atom only. So this is not a mutual sharing. So mutual sharing means when there is equal contribution of both the atoms, that is the mutual sharing, and when there is not equal contribution of both the atoms, that it is not a mutual sharing. So when there is a mutual sharing of the electron, then we get covalent bond. Then we get covalent bond. But when there is not mutual sharing of electron, then we get a coordinate bond. Then we get a coordinate bond. So we get three type of bonds. We get three type of bonds when atoms combine with each other. First bond is formed by the transfer of the electron. By the transfer of the electron, and that bond is termed as ionic bond. Second bond is formed by the sharing of the electron, but sharing may be mutual or maybe not. If the sharing is mutual, then the bond formed is known as covalent bond. But if the sharing is not mutual, then the bond formed is known as coordinate bond. Now we'll discuss the ionic bond and the ionic compound in detail. Ionic bond. Now what is ionic bond? The bond which is formed by the transfer, complete transfer of one or more electron from one atom to another atom, then there is a formation of the ionic bond. So first of all, ionic bond is not an actual bond. It is an electrostatic force of attraction. Why it is electrostatic force of attraction, we get to know. Now suppose, let us take sodium. Most common example. Let us take sodium. In sodium, its electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6 and 3s1. So attain its nearest noble gas configuration, it remove one electron. It remove one electron, and by removing one electron, it attains its nearest noble gas configuration. So Na, by removing one electron, get converted into Na positive. Get converted into Na positive. Let us take chlorine. Now, the electronic configuration of chlorine is 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. Now it requires only one electron to complete its octet, and because of requirement of only one electron, it easily gain one electron. It easily gain one electron and its configuration becomes stable. So chlorine accept an electron and get converted into Cl negative. Get converted into Cl negative. Keep in your mind that sodium and chlorine are never present in the form of Na positive and Cl negative in our nature. When they come to close with each other, then only they results in the transfer of the electron. Otherwise, they are present either in the form of Na or in the form of the Cl. In the nature, we didn't get Na positive and Cl negative. When they combine with each other to form a compound, then only they get converted into Na positive and Cl negative. Now, this Na positive combines with Cl negative to form NaCl. Now here it is a cation and this is an anion. Positive charge and negative charge. Negative and positive charge attracts each other, so therefore they attract each other and they develop a force of attraction between these two which keep these two ions together. Clear? There exists a force of attraction between these two ions and that force of attraction keep these two ions together, and that force of attraction is known as ionic bond. So ionic bond is actually an electrostatic force of attraction. Electrostatic force of attraction. Suppose if you jump from your place, then after some time you will remain in the ground. So there is an imaginary force of attraction between you and the earth. That is the gravitational force, we know. But that gravitational force is not visible to us, na? There is a non-visible force which is attracting us towards the earth. That is the gravitational force. So similarly, between Na positive and Cl negative, there is a force of attraction, but that force of attraction is not visible to us. And that force of attraction is known as ionic bond. So ionic bond is basically not a bond. It is not visible to us. Ionic bond is actually a strong force of attraction which is present between the two oppositely charged ions. Clear? So there exists an ionic bond between Na and Cl, and thus we get the ionic bond. Similarly, we get CaCl2 in which the ionic bond is present between the calcium and the chlorine. So this is the formation of the ionic bond. Now, if we want to draw the Lewis dot structure, of this ionic compound, if we want to draw the Lewis dot structure of this ionic compound, then in the ionic compound, NaCl is present in the form of Na positive and Cl negative. Now, we represent the electrons. Which are present in the outermost shell by dot. Clear? Now, in Na positive, the outermost shell is 3s, and when Na get converted into Na positive, 3s becomes 0. 3s becomes 0 because in Na, the outermost electron is 3s, and when we remove one electron from 3s becomes 0 and it get converted into Na positive. So the Lewis dot structure for cation is Na positive. We don't represent any dot around Na because nothing is present in the outermost shell. Outermost shell is empty because the outermost shell is 3s, and by removing one electron from 3s, Na get converted into Na positive. But in chlorine, the outermost electron is 3p, and by gaining one electron, it becomes 3p6. Right now it is 3p5, and when it gains one electron, it becomes 3p6. So it becomes Cl 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Why 8? Because this is the outermost shell and it contains how many electrons? It contains total 8 electrons. So it becomes negative. So this is the Lewis dot structure of the ionic compound. Lewis dot structure of the ionic compound means Lewis dot structure. In Lewis dot structure of the ionic compound, what you have to keep in your mind that if we have cation, then we don't have to put any dot outside the cation. Why? Because in cation the outermost shell becomes empty. But in anion we have to put total 8 dots. This is we are dealing with the Lewis dot structure. Lewis dot structure of the ionic compound. So there is a trick that if it is cation, then no dot should be around the cation, only a positive charge. And if it is anion, then there should be 8 dots around the anion and a negative charge. Now, how many negative charge? That you will get to know that how many electrons that anion is accepting from that particular cation. How many electrons are accepting? So now there is a question for you that draw the Lewis dot structure of AlCl3. You have to draw the Lewis dot structure of AlCl3 and CaCl2. You have to draw the Lewis dot structure of AlCl3 and CaCl2. This you have to draw and then show to me. Okay, so this is about the formation of the ionic bond. Now we will study the characteristics of the ionic compounds. So the characteristics of ionic compounds are: first, the physical state. First, the physical state. Now, what are ionic compounds? What are ionic compounds? Ionic compounds are those compounds in which atoms are held together by a force which is a chemical bond, and that chemical bond is a ionic bond. Clear? We said the first definition of this video that a force which binds the atoms together, that is known as chemical bond. So ionic compounds are those compounds in which we have ionic bond as a covalent bond. So first we will talk about the physical state. So most of the ionic compounds are solid. Most of the ionic compounds are solid because they are held together by strong force of attraction. Ionic bond is a strong force of attraction. Now next, the crystal structure. Now from X-ray studies we get to know that the constituent of the ionic compounds are ions, not atoms. Now if I am writing that NaCl is an ionic compound, so NaCl ionic compound, it doesn't mean its constituent particles are sodium and chlorine. Its constituent particles are sodium ion and chloride ion. So X-ray study shows that the constituent particles are ions, not the atoms. So in ionic compound, the constituent particles are ions which are held together by strong electrostatic force of attraction, which is known as ionic bond, and because of this strong electrostatic force of attraction, these are solid at room temperature. Next, third, melting and boiling point. Third characteristic of ionic compound is melting and boiling point. Now, boiling point. The boiling point depends on the type of bond. Types of bonds which is present between the constituent particle. And melting point depends on the symmetry. Now, what is the meaning of symmetry? Symmetry is actually the proper arrangement of the constituent particle in any particular compound. That is the symmetry. Now, suppose if you have to arrange chairs in a hall. Now, if you arrange the chair in a line, it looks symmetrical. So that is actually the symmetry. Symmetry is the proper arrangement of the constituent particles. That is symmetry. So boiling point depends on the type of the bond. That is by which bond the atoms are hold together. And the melting point depends on the symmetry. That is how symmetrically the atoms are present in that particular compound. If the bond is strong, the boiling point is high. And we are saying that ionic compounds are held together by strong electrostatic force of attraction, means by ionic bond, which is a very strong bond. So if the bond is very strong, boiling point should be very high because it becomes very difficult for us to break the bond. So a large amount of energy is required to break the bond, as a result of which boiling point becomes high. Second thing, symmetry. Now suppose if I have a negative charge, and if I want to place a negative charge close to this negative charge, what happens? There is a repulsion between these two. But if I want to place a positive charge around this negative charge, I can place easily because there is a force of attraction between negative charge and positive charge. So this also happens in the ionic compound, that if I have a positive charge here, then around it I get only negative charge, and around negative charge I get only positive charge. So it means there is a proper symmetrical arrangement of the ions in the ionic compound. It means symmetry is also very high. So because of the high symmetry and very strong force of attraction, they have high melting and boiling points. They have high melting and boiling points. Clear? Why they have high melting and boiling point? Because of strong bond which is present between the constituent particles and the symmetrical arrangement of the constituent particles, orderly arrangement of the constituent particles. Now, fifth, if I talk about the solubility. Now, ionic compounds are soluble in the polar solvents. Ionic compounds are soluble in the polar solvent. Now, in our previous videos, in the electronegativity, we studied that we have two types of bonds, polar and non-polar. Polar, in which there is electronegativity difference and charge separation. Non-polar, where there is no electronegativity difference. So, ionic compounds are soluble in polar solvents having high dielectric constant. Like water. So these ionic compounds are soluble in the polar solvents having high dielectric constant. Now, what is the meaning of the dielectric constant here? Dielectric constant means the energy which prevents the further combination of the ions. That is the dielectric constant. Suppose if I want to dissolve salt in water and it is dissolved. Why? Because it is not like this, because salt is made up of Na positive and Cl negative. They have a strong electrostatic force of attraction. So whenever they come too close to each other, they again combine to form NaCl. But it does not happen in the solution. Why? Because of the high dielectric constant of the water. Because of the tendency of the water to keep the ions separate from each other. So if the dielectric constant is very high, then the solvent particles are capable to keep the solute ions away from each other. But if they have a very low dielectric constant, then the solvent molecules are not able to keep the ions of the solute apart from each other. Next property is electrical conductivity. Now, ionic compounds act as a good conductor of electricity only in the solution form or in the molten state. In the dry form, they not act as a good conductor of electricity. Now, the reason behind this is, if we talk about solid NaCl, the solid NaCl not able to conduct electricity, though the constituent particles are ion. Now your question is that it contains ions, because we are saying from the starting that ionic compounds are made up of ions. The constituent particles are ions. So why it is not conducting electricity though it has ions? Because it has ions. Yes, it is the correct statement, but these ions are not free in the solid state. That's why solid NaCl is not able to conduct electricity. But if we talk about molten NaCl or the solution of the NaCl, both contain ions and these ions are free. To move. That's why molten NaCl or the solution form of the NaCl can able to conduct the electricity. So the next property is the electrical conductivity. Now we'll study the factors which affects the formation of the ionic bond. Means what are the different factors which favor or which oppose the formation of the ionic bond. Now first we'll talk about the ionization enthalpy. Now in our previous videos, we have studied that ionization enthalpy is actually the amount of the energy which is required, to remove the outermost electron from an atom to convert that electron into cation. Means the amount of energy which is required to convert the atom into cation, that amount of energy is known as ionization energy. So if the atom has the tendency to lose electron by its own, then it require only a little bit amount of energy to release the electron, and if it require only little bit amount of energy, then the ionization energy value should be very low. So ionization enthalpy favors the formation of the cation. How ionization enthalpy favors the formation of the cation? Means lesser the ionization enthalpy, greater the tendency to form the cation. Lesser the value of the ionization enthalpy, greater the tendency of that particular cation to form. So low ionization enthalpy means the cation is more stable because the atom itself want to lose that electron, and we have to supply only little bit amount of energy to convert that atom into the cation. So first factor is the ionization enthalpy. If we get little amount of ionization enthalpy, it means we are getting the most stable cation. The second factor which affects the formation of the ionic bond is the electron gain enthalpy. The second factor is electron gain enthalpy. Now in our previous video, we have studied about the electron gain enthalpy also, that electron gain enthalpy is the amount of the energy which is released. First thing is the ionization enthalpy, that is the amount of the energy which is required. And second thing is the electron gain enthalpy, which is the amount of the energy released when an extra electron is gained by an atom to convert it into anion. When an atom accept an extra electron and get converted into anion, at that time the amount of the energy released is known as electron gain enthalpy. More the amount of the energy released, more is the stability of that particular anion. So if we have higher negative value of electron gain enthalpy, means greater stability of anion. Now why we are dealing with the ionization enthalpy and the electron gain enthalpy? Because ionic bond is formed by the ion, that are cations and anions. Cation is formed by the help of the ionization enthalpy, and anion are formed by the release of the electron gain enthalpy. Now there is one more factor which affects the ionization enthalpy, ionic bond formation, that is the lattice enthalpy. Now what is lattice enthalpy? Lattice enthalpy is the amount of the energy released. When required amount of anion and cation combines to form 1 mole of ionic compound. So lattice enthalpy is the amount of the energy released when required number of the cations combined with the required number of the anions to form 1 mole of the ionic compound. For example, if I have to prepare 1 mole of NaCl, then for the preparation of 1 mole of NaCl, I want Avogadro number of Na positive and Avogadro number of Cl negative. So when Avogadro number of Na positive combines with the Avogadro number of Cl negative, then I get 1 mole of the NaCl. And at this time, the amount of the energy released, that amount of energy is known as lattice enthalpy. So these are 3 factors which affects the formation of the ionic bond. So overall we can write that if the lattice enthalpy plus the electron gain enthalpy becomes more than the ionization enthalpy, then there is formation of the ionic bond. Now why I am writing this? Lattice enthalpy is the amount of energy released. Now energy and stability, these two are inversely related to each other. If an atom has higher energy, then it has less stability. If an atom has lesser energy, it has higher stability. So energy and stability are inversely related to each other. Now, if the system is releasing energy, if the atom is releasing energy, it means it is gaining stability. More amount of energy is released by an atom, more stability is gained by that particular atom. So if an atom is releasing energy by its own, it means it gaining its stability. Now lattice energy is the amount of the energy released, means more the amount of energy released at the time of the ionic bond formation, more is the stability of the ionic bond, or more is the stability of the ionic compound. Similarly, electron gain enthalpy is also the amount of the energy released. But ionization enthalpy is the amount of the energy which is required. Means atom is gaining energy. If atom is gaining energy, then it losing its stability. So if these two value, it means if whenever an ionic bond is formed, if the amount of energy released by that ionic compound is greater than the amount of the energy gained by that ionic compound, then the ionic compound will easily form in the nature. So these are three factors which affects the formation of the ionic bond, and if we get the ionic bond, it means in that particular compound, the value of lattice enthalpy and electron gain enthalpy is greater than that of the ionization enthalpy. It means the amount of the energy released by that particular compound is greater than the amount of the energy gained by that particular compound during the formation of that particular compound. So, in this video, we have studied about the two questions, that why atom combines and how atom combines. Then we studied about the ionic bonds, properties of ionic compounds, and the different factors which affects the ionic compounds. So students, that's all for today. I'll see you in my next video with a new topic.